You need a blanket?
I always appreciate it, but yeah. I have no fucking clue what we just watched.
I'm Sam.
I'm Matt. And I'm very confused.
We just watched this really peculiar short film, or long short film,
it was
that happened to include characters from the X-Files.
Yeah, it was sort of this weird comedy.
Yeah. They aired it in the slot that they said they were going to air episode 3 of season 10 of the new X-Files.
Yeah, they really, which was a very bold decision, I think, to mislead us into thinking we'd be watching an X-Files episode, when in fact they were planning on showing us
this odd little story. So, how do we tackle this?
That's a serious question, because this feels like a later season comedy episode, but not even a particularly good comedy episode. Like, this isn't like Dreamland or something.
I don't have necessarily fan preference, because...
Yeah. X-Files did do comedy episodes in the later seasons, and they were sometimes pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty confusing. Thing is, we can't describe it to you.
It's really confused. It's all over the place.
Here's one way I could describe it, okay? And this may not necessarily help. But my good friend Sam here has a habit during movies or whatever of yelling out the worst possible option for where the show was going to go.
Yeah, so I'm I think of ways to ruin things. It's my hobby.
Yeah. Trying to think of an example they might get. Oh well.
That's fine.
Yeah. And this episode is like if somebody heard him yelling those out and took them as writing advice, but because it's not really trying to come up with the most dull or predictable or unsatisfying thing, just the stupidest thing.
It's stupid, but it's not common.
Yeah, I think the biggest place it falls down is that it isn't only the one joke, because the central thing is well, it looks like a werewolf story. Mulder and Scully meet the weremonster, but spoilers.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. It turns out it was a monster who got bit by a crazy human and turns into a human.
So, it's new, it's unexpected.
Yeah, that's not something I've seen a lot of before.
And to the credit of the episode...
Hey! Lulu! 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 Dude, now she's scared. There, jeez, that took care of the meowing.
To the credit of the episode.
To the credit of the episode,
they embrace it, and they have, the story is very much about the strange situation of being a monster turned into a man. And he is confused, and I guess he's consistent in some ways as a character. He just doesn't fit. Even someone who had seen the last 2 episodes only of X-Files ever wouldn't be able to reconcile this episode with what came before.
Yeah, what we got thus far is a Myth Arc episode, a Monster of the Week episode, a weird comedy episode. Are they trying to give us every type of episode the X-Files showed in this miniseries?
I guess.
Okay, so will we get a episode focused entirely on a side character, and then a episode focused, and then a weird avant-garde episode, long shots on a Titanic.
Oh yeah. The ghost ship
Yep.
and all the long moving shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, some
Which
new
was
experiments.
surprising amount of uncutness there. Like, for example, the fact that the elevator was uncut in that episode.
Mhm.
But this is not a review of long shots on a boat.
Yeah.
This is a review of Mulder and Scully meet the
Were
Were-Monster.
So, I do think that this was wrong-headed. It doesn't fit the series, and it, it has to be considered in context, at least of the last 2 episodes, and
Yeah.
it's childish. It's the characters act a little strange.
It doesn't as much not fit the series compared when you look at some of the weirder later episodes where there were a lot more things like season 3's Jose Chung's From Outer Space.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was not uncommon to have an episode where Mulder and Scully are just in a weird, stupid situation.
But like in this case, I think it's important to consider it as part of the revival.
Yeah.
And they're trying to show us what can X-Files be in 6 episodes. And that should not be about how many different things can X-Files be, but what is X-Files at its core if we're going to only have 6 episodes.
Yeah, this feels like maybe if there were 22,
Mm-hmm.
fine, but like, this feels like you're running out of ideas and someone just said, well, what if we did this? And you shouldn't be running out of ideas 2 episodes into your revival. I don't know what... It's hard to describe it because any description of it will not do it justice.
Yeah.
In the good or the bad ways.
Shall we talk about some of the story beats?
Well, sure, but I just wanted to like try to get sort of this idea across to them, which is that, like, it's fun and it's funny, but it's not good.
See, the problem is I didn't find it that funny.
I found it funny.
Mhm.
There's at the very least an option to find it funny. It's
Unfortunately not for me. But.
yes. Well, I mean, like some people may find it funny. If you're but like, if I wasn't reviewing it and I'd watched that, I'd probably not be like, oh, I'm glad I watched that. Again, I'd have rather rewatched a different episode of The X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have rewatched Jose Chung's From Outer Space.
Which I know you just did.
Yep.
So it's on your mind.
Well, I did, but I would rather rewatch it again.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was a really fun episode. Or, I'd rather we rewatch one of their weird episodes from the show than this, because this, while I found it fun and funny, had I tuned into this as part of a regular 22 episode season, I might have been left a little better. Like, I might have been left a little like, okay, whatever, that was a weird thing they did. But here, one, this does not bode well for the rest of the miniseries if they felt this had to be one of their Monster of the Weeks.
Sure.
It does not bode well for the rest of the miniseries if they could not come up with something better.
Although, I'd like to be fair to this episode, that's not about this episode.
Yep. Yeah. One thing I'll say, I would have liked this a lot better if the side characters were not also funny.
The side characters were not, and this is me again, were not attempting to be funny.
I thought they pretty clearly seemed to be trying to be funny.
Yeah, that's my problem with them. Is that, I was just saying that I thought they failed.
Oh, I thought you were saying that they weren't supposed to be comic.
No.
I mean, it became too much for me because they weren't that funny.
Yeah.
Like,
there were certain... Go ahead.
The animal control officer who hates being an animal control officer, and the pervert motel clerk.
Yeah. It's also random. It's also unnecessary. Despite saying that I didn't find them that funny, I think that you are right. The most important thing here is that they're not needed.
They're not needed, and even more importantly, they're not needed to be comical, because I've talked in the past, I believe, about the engagement curve on here. Have I?
No, I don't think so. Maybe
Okay,
in
so
Doctor Who.
the engagement curve is effectively it's how you keep entertained. It's you start low, you go up, you're allowed to break, you go up, you're allowed to break, you go up, you're allowed to break, up to the
Then a
climax.
cat shows up.
Then the cat shows up, you pet the cat.
Gets
Cat
more
meows a
intense.
lot.
Yeah.
The thing is, so the key engagement, hypothetically, of this episode is the comedy. And the comedy is that, you know, the comedy is non-stop, and thus it burns you out.
Yeah.
Like, you open and you got the stoners, and they're kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then they get attacked by a monster. Then you've got Mulder in his now more spacious X-Files set. And then, so there's your down on the comedy. But then you get into the area where they're investigating this, and it's non-stop wacky figures.
Yeah. You know, with all the weird people they run into, like with the, you know, pervert motel owners and like cowardly animal control, whatever, all the people they were running into, I thought that they were going to go for something like the whole town is like getting poisoned by something that's making them like weird.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely thought this comic episode is suddenly going to veer to the right, and we're going to realize that there's just something wrong with everybody.
Yeah, and it's just like...
But no, that's not at all.
The thing... And here's, I think, an important part, which is where human, I guess, the monster that turns into a human. He's a weird, goofy human.
Mm-hmm.
But that is supposed to be, I guess, partially that he doesn't know how humans operate. But because everyone else is just as weird as he is, I don't get that out of him. I'm like, okay, this is just another guy in this crazy town.
Yeah, a different angle that they didn't use could be that he learns his behaviors from all the crazy people around him.
Yes.
And they could realize over time, wait, actually he's just copying. But no, that's not it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we really need from, like, the ideal version of this episode, only he is weird, I think.
No, I think that's the clear best choice.
Because then I get breaks from his weirdness when he's not on screen, or maybe when Mulder is not... Because Mulder can be funny. Like, he can say funny things. And... So that's really, I think, where this failed. It was poorly paced. Yeah, we could run through, I guess, the story beats. The story beats...
I don't know if we need to, though.
Yeah.
To think of it. I think that everything I want to talk about will get talked about. Just as if we talk about the comedy and we talk about that big flashback scene talking to the were-human in the graveyard, we will talk about basically everything.
Yep. I mean, I can just anywhere run down in about 5 minutes what happens.
Sure.
Okay, so we start with Mulder and Scully investigating. We start with a couple stoners hanging out in the woods being stoners, and they come across two people, one of whom appears to be they come across a person, one of whom appears to be being attacked by a monster, and the other is dead and has his throat ripped open, and the monster runs away, the monster yells and runs away, and then do.
Yeah.
And spooky face does not happen because it's the revival. And then we get Mulder and Scully, and Mulder's like, oh man, I sure hate believing in monsters and stuff because those are so often bullshit. And it's like, Mulder, the devil. You're complaining that these rocks were not moved by a rock monster when you've been attacked by the devil. You've been attacked by voodoo. You've been attacked by ghosts.
A ghost from space.
Yeah, like, so, Mulder's all, oh, monsters are bullshit, Scully, and Scully's like,
what?
What? No, but there are monsters though. Like that is a thing.
She doesn't say that because that's not her style.
Yeah. Let's go investigate this case. It has monsters in it. And they go and investigate the case, and they're like, and I was like, well, there's probably no monsters involved. Look, the people who saw it were stoners. And then Scully's like, yeah, but look at the things that, like, really would make it very weird for this to have been
an animal
a wild animal. He's like, well, I bet it was a wolf and a leopard at the same time. And a bear.
Yeah.
That's how I'd like to go out. I'm like, well, too bad. Autoerotic asphyxiation. This is canon. We've been told by a man who can see the future that you will die of autoerotic asphyxiation. Sorry, Mulder. I could, So then they go investigate more, and there's a weird hotel guy, and the weird hotel guy's like, oh, there's a monster in this hotel, and then Mulder's like, is there a monster in this hotel? He's like, no. He's like, but I thought you saw there was a monster. He's like, nope, now go away or I'll kill you. Mulder's like, wow, there's secret passages so you can look through all the animal heads on the wall.
Yeah.
And the weird hotel guy is like, yeah, that's a security feature. And also, I saw a monster in that room. That weird guy turned into a monster. And then there's some very uncomfortable jokes at the expense of a transsexual person.
Yeah, but almost the worst, but not quite.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of sitting there like, well, none of these are the worst yet.
True.
I just sort of feel like I'm supposed to be giggling.
Yeah.
But
like,
I'm not giggling because it's not anything funny.
Yeah, it's like there's, and then they go around, they get attacked. Then later, Scully goes and finds the were-monster working at a phone store, and he freaks out and runs away. Mulder's like, why would you go out into danger without backup? And then immediately goes into danger without backup. Goes to the graveyard. The were-monster explains, I'm not really a human turned into a monster. I'm a monster turned into a human, and all those deaths were caused by the evil animal control officer.
Only the full moon can turn him back into his normal self.
Yep. And they go, and then Scully's like,
maybe just the moon. I don't know.
I'm not sure. And this guy's like, hey, the Mulder, this is me on the phone, and I want to tell you I'm hanging out with an animal control officer, and then the animal control officer attacks her.
I'm hanging out with this animal control officer, and there's this eerie music playing behind me, and he's approaching me.
And then Mulder's like, I'm going to go over there now, and then she gets attacked, and then we cut away, and she's already arrested him.
Yeah. Because, I mean, honestly, that's... Obviously.
Yeah.
He's just a guy.
And he tries to give her, like, this monologue about how he became evil, and she's like, yeah, I don't give a shit. He's like, but I had a monologue.
I had a whole speech planned.
And then, like, then Mulder goes and talks to the monster guy, and monster guy's like, yeah, I'm a monster guy, and I'm going to go hibernate for 10,000 years now. And Mulder's like, that sounds like bullshit. And then the guy turns into a monster. He's like, well, see ya. And Mulder's like, yeah, see ya. And that's the scene.
And they both agreed that it was good that they met each other.
Yep. And nothing really happens.
Yeah.
Like, there was also a psychiatrist who was a weirdo.
Like, the psychiatrist was actually the last straw. Where I was like, something is just totally fucked with this town because this person is all wrong.
Yeah,
but no, he's just a person who doesn't make sense.
Yep. Yeah, like so
he refers to his patients as crazy. He just prescribes people medicine as a sort of passive aggressive dig at them, even though he's talking with a federal agent. Yeah, he's like. He really is sort of the point where it's like, this is too much weird. Yeah. And it's like what I said early in the episode became more and more true. I felt like we were being made fun of. Almost like he's like, what, you want a good episode of The X-Files? Fuck you.
I never felt that.
I felt a little like that.
I felt like it was making fun of... I really did feel like it was self-parody, but... wasn't good self-parody. It was... I mean, to a certain extent, it wasn't really a parody so much as just this was a Monster of the Week episode where everyone was weird. I never got that sense that I was the joke. Mm-hmm. Like, I felt... But The X-Files also wasn't the joke. The joke was these weird characters. but the joke just can't be weirdos exist.
Yeah.
Like, really, I think I agree with you that the psychiatrist was the point where everyone was weird. Like, okay, you've got this stock transgender sex worker character.
Yeah.
A little uncomfortable, but whatever. Yes, they act in the one comic way that character acts of being kind of sarcastic and
Yep.
like whatever. That's haha. Like, and then you've got the stoners and they act stoned. And you've got the animal control officer, but he's terrified of animals. But like, really, none of those were that out of place. And then you've got this motel guy, but then even the psychiatrist is a weirdo. And any one of these characters, except the stock trans sex worker, could have been a funny character if they weren't surrounded by all the others.
Can we talk about the one character who comes close to working comically?
Yeah.
The were-human?
Yeah.
There's some funny stuff in there.
Yeah.
About him. It's the part where they actually embrace the one joke, which was clearly the whole point of having this episode at all.
Mm-hmm.
Which is this guy who's just horrified by his insatiable desire to go out and earn money and get a paying job.
Yes.
And is just really freaked out.
Yeah. And that was, like, there were times that kind of worked.
Yeah.
The him lying about having sex with Scully was... That joke went on too long.
It went on too long. There's just something... I don't even fucking know.
I mean, the essential joke of this man has been turned into a human and has an instinctive desire, like a werewolf, to attack things, to go live an extremely boring, normal human life.
Yeah. Like, they could have just had, it's just like, says something sexy and starts to, like, undo something, and then Mulder's like, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
He immediately cut it off, and it would actually be funny, and it wouldn't...
Yeah.
Honestly, it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because...
I was like, when does this gag stop?
But, yeah. On the other hand, even for a comedy, I think this is what's central for me, even for a comedy, I kind of have to have, unless it's Airplane or something of the sort, this idea that there is a real world here. Like, I don't understand what universe I'm in this episode. Like, where human could get this job and be promoted. Like, it's a gag.
He wasn't promoted.
Yeah, he was promoted to manager.
Oh.
He said by the end of the day.
That part doesn't bother me that much, but what bothers me is the things that make him... I mean, like, werewolves are better than wolves at things, so it worked in the joke to me that he is better than humans at being a boring human.
Interesting.
Like, because, the werewolf is generally presented as being better at tracking than a wolf.
And more
like
powerful.
A real, actual wolf would be. So he turns into a human and becomes excessively good at humaning.
I think the problem with that is that he's not. We have Mulder talk to him, and we can see he's not good at being a human.
Yeah, like I don't mind that he becomes the manager, but really what I mind, although he's clearly not acting as the manager.
Yeah.
There is a job responsibility of managers, and it's not being the frontline salesman. But like he's got he's not. Him being weird is not funny because everyone's weird.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
There's no world to fall back on. I don't feel like there's a community here. Like, I don't even feel like we're on planet Earth. So, like, why is it funny that he's acting just as strange as other people?
And he's...
Like, this is the kind of world where he could get promoted, so it's not funny.
Yeah.
except in the aspect of him being better at being a normal human, which isn't borne out by everything else.
Yeah. And him, I mean, even in that aspect, even if it was born out, like, that's not really, like, that's fine for one line, but, like, there was this, the people aren't even all weird in the same way, so, again, like, him being weird, he's weird, but were this character just a traveling salesman, or whatever, from Australia, then fine. You would not, like, he would not be acting any different. He does not feel kind of important. Like, it feels like nothing to here's the thing for me, is that in the X-Files, even in comedy episodes, and I'm gonna talk about an episode, which was, it did end with, well, this episode Dreamland I told you, with the body switching, and there's kind of a deus ex machina to undo it, but something got accomplished. It was a story that was about something set up at the start of the episode, which is, this episode starts out with Mulder and Scully are going on a drive, and Scully's like, Mulder, doesn't this ever get tiring? Don't you ever want to settle down and not just be the man investigating conspiracies all the time? Then he gets his body switched with this man in black who is basically a normal family man, and we see Mulder living this life of trying to adapt to being a normal family man. We see the answer to, would you ever want to settle down? And it's, Mulder would be terrible at that. And thus, even though it's a funny episode, admittedly a few dramatic ones, but even though it's a very funny episode, it still works, you know? Jose Chung's From Outer Space works because there is something. It's about what, in the universe of the X-Files seems like. Mm-hmm. It seems like this weird, you know, thing with these... It's about how other people... It's about how a standard X-Files episode is perceived by everyone else in the universe. Mm-hmm. So, this was not about anything. You could have made an episode with this basic plot outline about Mulder sort of realizing that he can't not investigate monsters. Almost set that up with him being like, I don't believe in monsters anymore, Scully.
And then he decides that he does.
Yeah. Like,
it's pretty simple. I mean, it's one, then the other.
Yeah.
So.
But, like, you could make it like where Mulder's, you know, saying, essentially at the start he's throwing things at this poster that says, I want to believe. So it's essentially Mulder no longer wants to believe.
Yeah.
And it's about him learning to want to believe. You could tell that story. They didn't. He immediately goes to, it's a weremonster then. Mm-hmm. And then he goes back, he's like, I'm not sure I believe you, your story is too stupid. And yeah, we are kind of with him. That story this story is too stupid. Even though it's true, but like everybody is stupid in this world and whatever. And at the end, I don't feel like Mulder has changed from where he was at the episode. Because even though he's in a different place than he was at the episode, I don't feel the events convince this episode. At the start of the episode.
Yeah. Okay.
He was like, I don't want to believe, and now he's like, I do want to believe. But I don't feel like these events led to that. It did not really naturally progress to not wanting to believe to wanting to believe. Like, the world isn't, like, it's not cooler if this guy is really a weremonster or anything for Mulder. It's just stuff.
Alright. Are we set? Any final thoughts?
Let me think. Weremonster's makeup looked distractingly like the guy from Lucha Underground. I was expecting him to get in a match with Aerostar at any minute. Other than that, no.
So, how many, that would dock some points from it?
Dock points. This episode was not as good as an episode as Lucha Underground is the main problem. There was no one ascended Dark Olympus at any point. So, overall, I don't know. I'm trying to be as generous as I can. 3 out of 10? Well, comparing it to every other X-Files, maybe 3 out of 10. Comparing it to sort of this idea of what is its ideal form,
Yeah.
2 out of 10?
Alright. Well, certainly, as far as it's being its ideal form, I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. As an X-Files episode, I mean, 1 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. It was...
Yeah.
I guess my caveat is, it's watchable.
Yeah, it's pretty watchable.
This is
considering
not
that it's just absolute garbage.
Yeah, this is not something like, if you're thinking like Star Trek Voyager, like Twisted, where you kind of just feel tired after having watched it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of bad TV that you feel tired after having watched. I don't feel tired after this. I just didn't feel like I gained anything from it.
It's not like the premiere of season 10 of X-Files.
Yeah.
You know, that was an episode where it was sort of kind of annoying to be in the process of watching it.
Yeah.
And afterwards, you felt vaguely annoyed for having watched it.
Yeah.
This one, I'm just like, easy in, easy out. Garbage. I'm just gonna dump it in the trash bin, and it's fine.
Yeah, if you, I guess, really like comedies with, it's just these weird characters who are not really that established, and you could deal with the, again, extremely uncomfortable jokes about the trans sex worker, I would probably actually dock points for that.
Mm-hmm.
They're
on the threshold. The thing about it is, like, they didn't make jokes, mostly.
Yeah, it's just such a cliche character.
I mean, yeah, I think that almost just having that character counts as an attempt at a joke.
Yeah, like, it's such a cliche character, and the character was not done in a manner portrayed different from every other, like, in this, comparing it to this world, I guess, that we've created. That character was not weird for the setting compared to how that character would appear in another work. Like, the psychiatrist was a weirdo.
Yeah.
That character was no more weird than every other trans sex worker character.
Yeah.
And there may have been really only one joke, like a little joke at the point about the character's trans, and that's, I guess, could have been funny, but it wasn't. You could have told the joke where human thinks that the surgery would make him a monster again.
Yeah.
You could have told that joke amusingly, but...
Yeah, they told the joke, but they didn't go... It wasn't funny, so there it is.
Like, there were 3 jokes they told in that section, and none of them quite hit. The first was, haha, she hits like a man. Well, she was a man. Ha, that's the first joke.
Okay. It works slightly okay just because Mulder is uncomfortable, and Mulder being uncomfortable is extremely ineloquent. And Mulder's ineloquence is inherently funny to me.
Yeah. Mulder being very awkward around that is kind of amusing. Then we've got, Mulder's trying to explain what transgenderism is, but he's not comfortable with it, but he doesn't get to the point where, like, the authors are clearly trying to show that they're very understanding.
Yes.
But that doesn't work with the joke being Mulder's very awkward about this.
No, it doesn't.
So, and then the joke is this guy thinks that Mulder's talking about a surgery that would make him a monster. I was like, well, they'd cut your penis off and ha, but like, no,
that's too far, ha ha.
Yeah.
That was actually the joke that annoyed me the most.
Yeah. The real joke, there is a possible joke about where he's like, oh, well, he's like you could have told this joke as like, oh, she hit like a man. It's like, that's sort of And it's like, well, you know, there was, I mean, well, she transitioned. She's like, a transition? Yeah, well, I mean, it's sort of like you do this thing, and it helps you be more, it's sort of getting more to the way you feel you are, and like, Mulder
But with more forehead wrinkles?
But more forehead wrinkles, and Mulder being really ineloquent and not quite getting anything out even more than I am, and the guy's like, I definitely need that. And they're like, because this guy thinks he would turn him back into a monster and not.
And then like, Mulder would be like, no, that wouldn't work, and then the joke ends there.
Yeah. Like, he couldn't even go for guns, but the punchline can't be cutting his penis off. 'Cause that's the joke. The punchline is like, it's not transforming your species. That's the punchline.
Another thing that annoyed me about the joke, and there's plenty to be annoyed, is that, I mean, is he just not listening? Like, I know he's not coming off as the brightest person, but like, he just said, no, this will not work, and he's like, I need to go do that right now.
Yeah.
Like, Mulder legitimately just told you that it's not a solution, and it just feels like they're forcing this unfunny joke.
Yeah, and as I said, like, they clearly tried to rewrite it to make Mulder be more sensitive, but he comes off even more insensitive because he's being really awkward about something that he is talking about how not awkward and totally common it is with someone who is just also really awkward about things, and he isn't like trying to be like, don't think it's weird because this guy thought it was weird. He's like, it's an uncomfortable section. I'd cut that entire character out.
Yeah,
I'd cut
for sure.
Cut
the whole episode.
You could cut the whole episode, but I'm saying making the ideal form of the episode. I would make the motel worker and the psychiatrist not comic. I'd cut the prostitute, sex worker, entirely, and I would put more emphasis on the idea of whether or not Mulder wants to believe this is true.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason
there's not that much space for him.
Yeah,
because there are all these people coming in and out.
The only reason I gave it a 2 was like the psychiatrist mentioned that idea, and there was some conversation about it in the graveyard, but it was never enough. And again, knocking something off with a really awkward character, 1 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Just terrible. But
yeah,
watchable if you can tolerate it, and I won't even rule out the possibility you'll have a good time.
I'm set. You set?
Bye.
Bye-bye now.